the things, thankfully, I'm a reformed people pleaser. So I'm almost on the displeasing side, because I would rather be disappointing someone else than disappointing myself. And that has taken a lot of work and a lot of therapy and a lot of personal push, because that's not my tendency. It's easier to forego your own needs for the sake of others, but that has never served me well. And so the thing that I would challenge listeners on, as far as the people pleasing and not setting boundaries because we want to make sure others like us or approve of us, is really to ask yourself, what is harder for you to handle? The risk of maybe a little external conflict, or the internal conflict that you will 100% have if you deny your truest self and your needs and your boundaries. And for me, I would 100% rather risk having a hard conversation with a friend that maybe doesn't go well and the outcome isn't what I anticipated, than have to swallow it, stomach it, and then guess what? Build resentment. Because that's exactly what it's going to do. Every time I say a yes, that should have been a no. Every time that I have this knowing inside of me and I deny it for the sake of someone else, I'm building a little bit of internal conflict and resentment, and I'm stewing, and I'm talking to my friend about it. And I'm like, I can't believe this person. And that is pushing us further apart, versus coming to them with kindness and sincerity and saying, hey, brace yourself. I'm about to bring you something hard, but I think there's a chance it could better our relationship. And the hard truth is, I've done that and it hasn't been received well. It's not a guarantee that people are going to be like, oh, I hear you and I see you and I agree. No, you could risk that there's a little tension and conflict, but that's okay. I would rather displease someone else than displease myself.
How did you get there? Because that is a hard task when you're living your life avoiding conflict or avoiding saying your truth. A lot of times, you say you're on the recovery side of the people pleasing. A lot of times when you're in that people pleasing and perfectionist mode, you are willing to sit with yourself and your discomfort over risking the discomfort of someone else. So, you said therapy. What are other tools that you can use for that? Because it is not, I think it's almost easier said than done. I would rather feel good about myself. If you are in it, that's not where your mind goes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's learned behavior over time. I don't think I have a lightning bolt moment that shifted me from one perspective to another. I will say that for somebody who suffers with their mental health and anxiety, it worsens that for me. And so why would I take something, eat something, say something, do something that makes my health more of a risk? And so I think if we started looking at it that way, because I would just stew and perseverate and I think, oh, I could have said this and I should have said that. And it could even be simple things like, I didn't want to bake the cookies for the bake sale. Why did I say that? I have no time for this nonsense, but here I am mixing the batter, right? And so those kind of things, I think, just chipped away at me over time, where I'm like, ooh, I can say no. And no is a complete sentence. It's one of my favorite quotes. I owe nobody any explanation or justification except myself. I am the one I have to sit with at the end of the day. And so if I'm sitting with myself all day and my mind is racing of all the couldas and wouldas and shouldas, then I have made a misstep. So I'm just going to try something different. And most of the time, if you're saying it with love and kindness, the no is okay. And it actually gives permission for other people to do the same.
I love that. I definitely personally struggle with that, saying no. And then, the ruminating thoughts and the constant thinking of what I'm saying or what I'm doing, or then you say yes and you don't really want to. And then you're carrying all this energy about you that is not serving anyone. And even when it comes to saying no, I find there's a lot of times where there's the oversharing and the anxiety that comes with it. So I say no, and then I want to explain why or give all this information where, like you're saying, and I've heard that quote before, no is a complete sentence. that takes a lot of courage to just say no. I feel like I'm talking about like drug dare programs growing up in school. Just say no. But like, that's what essentially you're saying is we need to get comfortable with this concept of like, just say no.
Yeah. I mean, look, the boundaries are only a problem for the people who benefited from you having none. Mm. So when you say no to the right people with the right intent and no explanation necessary, the right people will receive that. Now, the people who benefited from you having no boundaries and being the queen of the bake sale, they're not going to like it. They're going to maybe give you a little pushback. And I think that's the thing when I read about boundaries and study them and learn, it's that it's not exactly the setting of the boundary that is hard for people to do. It's the follow through when there's the aftermath, when there's the response afterwards. And so that goes back to even the way I approach my writing. If I can stand in my truth, if I can do that gut check and I'm like, this is what works right for me. This is what I believe. And so if I can put that on paper or it comes out of my mouth in a personal relationship with somebody, then I have to be prepared that I am here to release my truth, not manage a response. And so it is not my responsibility. I'm not the judge and jury for someone else's response. But if I've said it with love and I've done the gut check that I know that this is true for me in this moment, then I've done my job.